This workshop was added around 50 years after the original property had been built. The interior windows between this room and the next tell us that this was once the outside wall. Earlier, you entered the house through a long, narrow garden. This may once have opened out into a communal yard housing livestock and would have extended beyond the walls that now surround the abbey. These back rooms were commonly used for preparing food and may have doubled as storerooms for shop goods. Next you will hear from the apprentice who is hard at work preparing goods for his master.
When I reached my 13th year, my parents sent me to Tewkesbury to learn a trade. I became apprenticed to a merchant and came to live here with my new master and mistress who treated me as one of their family. I was bound to my master's service for 7 years by the terms of an indenture, or contract. After that I would have enough skill to become a journeyman and seek paid work of my own. I agreed to be loyal and obedient, assisting my master in whatever he asked of me. In return he fed and clothed me, teaching me to read and write so that I could help him in the shop. A copy of this indenture was held by us both as a daily reminder of our commitments and responsibilities. We worked for 6 days of the week from 5 in the morning until 7 at night, which left little time for rest or fun. Some Sundays my master would grant me leave to go to town. Apprentices and labourers were forbidden from gambling or drinking strong ale, but if we were clever about it we could hide away in the back rooms of the taverns and play at dice or cards. When the day was done and the family went to their bedchamber, I was left to make my bed from the rushes on the floor.
In the 16th century, many parents could not afford to send their children to school. Children as young as 8 would enter a trade so that they might one day run their own business. For many years, education remained an expensive luxury, but over the next few centuries, the children who were born in this row gradually began to reclaim their childhoods. By the 1940s, many were free to come and go as they pleased, as one of the former residents now explains.
I joined the Abbey choir in 1946 because I was sat in the Abbey and the vicar came along and said to me, "What are you doing here? Why aren't you at choir practice?" And I said, "But I'm not in the choir." He said, "Well, cut along to Mr. Stubbington," and I went along and he tested me on his grand piano and I joined the choir and I thoroughly enjoyed it. We had a wonderful choir. I became a bell ringer and an altar server and I just loved the place. And one of the advantages of serving at the altar during the weekdays, you had breakfast at Abbey House and then he took you to school. We were getting to what the vicar used to call hobbledy-hoys. We were neither man nor boy. But we'd go out in the morning and come back at tea time. We'd be out all day. Abbey House was open house to us children, us boys. And as long as we kept the tennis court mowed and marked, we could go in his house and get the tennis rackets and play tennis in the summer holidays. Beautiful, beautiful childhood. Yes, he was a great man, Reverend Purefoy. During the war, to make sure that there were no glider lands, they carved trenches all over the Ham. And when it snowed in 47, of course you couldn't see these. So we used to drag our sleds across the hams and fall into these things. Of course you were in a crevasse then, weren't you?
We hope that you have enjoyed visiting the merchant's house and meeting its inhabitants. We have only been able to tell a small part of their story.